Hey everybody, welcome to my video on the top 5 things you learn from I Won't Back Down, the classic song from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I've made hundreds of videos and I can't believe we never did this one before, so today is the day. Now I'm going to show you how to bang out the electric guitar power chords of this tune, how to strum through the open position chords, which can sound great on acoustic guitar. We're going to talk about the sweet slide guitar playing you hear throughout this tune. We'll talk about the muting you need to do with your picking hand. And I'll also show you some lead guitar scales you can use to improvise on top of this tune. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see a short version. For the complete version, head on over to Songbike where you can become a member, watch the complete version of this video, and access a lot of other great videos not available on YouTube. All right, you ready to get started? Here we go. First thing we have to talk about is palm muting. Even before we get into the chord changes and the lead guitar and all that other good stuff, palm muting is pretty much crucial for the rhythm guitar part of this song, letting the fleshy side of your hand touch the strings as you play to get that nice, thick, focused, concentrated kind of sound. Okay, so I've seen beginners really struggle with palm muting, so I want to take a minute to talk about it before we get into the chord changes and everything else. Again, the flesh on the side of your hand is going to be touching the strings, specifically touching the strings that you're going to be strumming, but essentially you end up touching all 6 strings. Now, here's what's so important about mastering this technique. You do have to hold your picking hand differently than you normally would, right? If you're strumming chords, your hand is going up and down, hopefully it's loose and relaxed. It's not going to be that way anymore. You actually do have to fundamentally change how your hand is approaching the guitar. So it was described to me once as like a karate chop. You're giving the guitar a karate chop there. So you really do have to rethink what's going on here. So take your hand, that karate chop kind of motion, and rest the side of your hand against the strings. I'm going to hold the camera off this way so you can see, right? I'm not changing how I hold the pick, right? But my hand is resting on the strings. Now, you got to find the sweet spot where your hand is pressing on the strings just lightly enough that the listener can still hear some music, but not so lightly that it doesn't mute the strings, right? I'm not touching it at all. Or you don't want it so tight against the strings that the listener doesn't hear any music, right? I call it the sweet spot, and you're going to have to find that through trial and error. But the most important thing is for this rhythm guitar part, you will no longer have the freedom to strum up and down like this, or all downstrokes. This song is largely downstrokes there for the power chords that I'll be talking about in a minute. You got to fundamentally change your approach, okay, to your right hand. So that karate chop, and then I kind of fold my hand in towards the guitar. Chop and fold it in like your side of your hand is a hinge, okay? And then experiment with exactly how lightly you can touch the guitar. Now, I know I'm making a big deal about this, but again, I've seen a lot of beginning students really struggle with this. Now, if you're already good with palm muting, let's move ahead to the next clip. Now, let's apply that palm muting to the intro and the verse power chords. I'm going to be doing all downstrokes. It's going to sound like this. Okay, you recognize that sequence. The E power chord to the D to the G, right? That happens twice in the intro. It also represents the first, second, and fourth lines of the verse. Okay, we got 4 E power chords, 3 of the Ds, and then a quick switch over to the G for 9 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now there's only one variation, the third line of the verse, right on "Stand Me Up at the Gates of Hell." But you can see on the screen there it's even more straightforward, but we got the C power chord. Stand me up at the gates of hell. Or later in the verse, when he repeats, it's keep this world from dragging me. Okay, it goes that C power chord. So that's all. 4 E's, 4 D's, and 8 C's. That's the one variation, okay? That's just how Tom wrote it. So the third line of the verse has that variation. E to D to C for 8 times. Okay? Now everything I just showed you That represents, of course, the intro and the verse. That whole thing repeats again. Not the intro, of course, but the whole thing repeats again. And then there's a little pre-chorus. And the pre-chorus, which obviously leads into the chorus, it starts off the same way. You've got by the way, this is right when you're saying, I won't back down, right before the chorus. Won't back down. Okay, a little twist there. Okay, so you can see that on the screen. We have the 4 E's like you'd expect. We got the 3 D's like you'd expect, but only 5 G's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that leads to a quick, no big deal, right? C power chord, G to C. Now that final C I did right there, that is actually the first of 6 C power chords that represent the chorus. I'm pausing here on the C just because we're going to wrap up the verse, but you get the idea, right? Okay, and that goes into the chorus. C, G, C, that's why it's called the pre-chorus. Okay, so palm muting, downstrokes, a pretty predictable pattern, and you're all set. Okay, YouTubers, there's a lot more I want to show you about this song, so head on over to Songbike, where you can become a member and access the complete version of this video and lots of other great videos not available on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I will see you over at Songbike.